What is something destructive and inconsiderate a guest has done in your house? Our 6-year-old daughter had a neighborhood friend over who lived just down the street. She had some sort of accident in our bathroom and asked through the door if we could get her mother. We called the mom, who came right over. She was in there a little bit, came out, got the kid's jacket and said she was taking her home. We went into the bathroom after she left, and there was diarrhea all over the toilet and floor of the bathroom. The mom left without cleaning it up or saying anything about it. Who does that? You don't ask for paper towels, cleaning products, and apologizing profusely? I'd go crap up her house tonight. A crap mess for a crap mess. My aunt brought over her children and left them with us for the day. After she picked them up, she called my mom to let her know that her kids have lice. BTW. At my birthday party at my house, this one girl who I already was not fond of got horrendously drunk. She was sitting right outside my bedroom, which is on the 2nd story, on my balcony. I was in my bedroom searching for something when she suddenly burst in through to my room from the balcony, clutching her mouth. I quickly escorted her to the bathroom, trying to ignore the smell. Once I pushed her into the bathroom, I immediately closed the door, assuming she would direct herself to the toilet. At this point I was not completely sober, so didn't take note of much except the bathroom situation. Once the girl stumbles out, I cautiously made my way into the bathroom as I too had to pee, only to find that she had projectile vomited in not just one direction, but many. The shower, sink, bath, walls, mirror and door were smeared with her awful half-digested curry and Baileys. In my mind, she must have entered the bathroom, stood smack bang in the middle and just started spinning uncontrollably until her stomach was empty and the walls were plastered. I had to get down and scrub for the next hour and a half by myself as the party continued downstairs. To top it off, I finally made my way down and rejoined my friends, only to find the dance floor had been evacuated because vomit was dripping through the cracks in the balcony and onto people's heads. TLDR. Girl decides the best birthday presents are not given from the bottom of your heart, but from the bottom of your stomach. The destructive part: my roommate and I had a party at our apartment and one of the guests threw up in the sink and clogged it. The good guy part: he proceeded to take apart the pipes, clean them out, and put them back together. I couldn't do that sober. Impressive. During a family Christmas get-together a great many years ago, my grandmother would not stop feeding my dog handouts from her plate. Again and again. We told her to knock it off. Again and again. Grams would take cheese cubes and other small snack items and drop it on the floor where it could be swallowed whole in a microsecond. This is a small dog, too. We're talking 10ish pounds, so the ratio of people food to dog is fairly high. We then had to deal with my dog's diarrhea and massive bloating. Thanks a lot, Grandma. We have a chihuahua and people do this all the time. We restrict her sodium intake because she loses a lot of fur from it, but people always feed her the saltiest, fattiest pieces of food. We were having a gathering at our home of people in a local club. One couple brought their daughter, who was about 18 months old at the time. The father is someone with no social skills, and he was apparently raised by wolves. His daughter picked up one of our heavy coasters and began pounding it on our cherry coffee table. He stood there and watched her do it, did nothing to intervene, and then got angry with me when I took it out of her hand, after my furniture had been permanently scarred about 20 times. Later that same day, he watched her pick up a large bowl of popcorn and dump it on my carpet. Again, he did nothing, including cleaning it up. At least his wife had the good grace to be completely appalled by the behavior of her husband. I had a friend staying with me and my boyfriend. I told her no smoking in the apartment, and especially not to open the window in her room as there wasn't a screen on it, was waiting for the landlord to get one. We had just moved in. She stayed for a couple days and left. About 2 hours after she was gone, I realized I hadn't seen my kitten for a while. I went searching to see if she was sleeping somewhere random. I opened the door to the guest room and saw the window open. My 9-week-old kitten got out and fell 2 stories into some bushes. I never saw her again. I lived in a very populated part of the city, so I'm assuming someone saw her and picked her up and kept her, despite the number of missing kitten signs I put up around my neighborhood. Forever pee off. Some guy was drunk and somehow fell on a flat screen TV, breaking it. The next day he bought me a replacement though, so no hard feelings. The really offensive incident was at a birthday party, which for some reason was held at my own house. This guy I didn't even invite comes over and, in the course of a 1-hour visit, clogs my toilet with a monster crap, spills his drink on my rug and hit on my other friend's underage sister. I usually clog the toilet when I take a crap, so if I go to a friend's house I make him pep talk the toilet to be ready for me if anything happens. Criticized my home and the way I live. A family friend brings this trashy girlfriend to a Christmas party. Next day, I realize my new leather boots were missing and in their place was a pair of banged up shoes. That trashy girlfriend stole my boots. They weren't even the same sized. Da fuck. I don't understand being invited to someone's house then stealing their crap. You should find that girl and skin her feet to make some boots. I had a bunch of Pokemon stickers on my room's wall as a kid. Had a friend come over, and after his dad picked him up and went home I noticed all my stickers were gone. My mom calls the guy's dad. He brings him right back and forces him to give the stickers back and apologize. He snatched them when we weren't looking just before his dad arrived. Stopped being friends with that little frick after that. Thought this would have ended with the dad saying tough luck and not coming back. Props to the dad for proper parenting. What's up with guests who take a big dump in the toilet and then don't flush? Come on. Word of advice to all hosts. Please make sure you own a plunger and leave it in the bathroom, so we can take care of any embarrassing incidents if they should happen to occur. We don't want to leave the clogged toilet, but we also don't want to interrupt the party to announce how clogged the toilet is. My mother, out of the goodness of her heart, took in her aunt and uncle who since our house was tiny lived in a camper trailer next to our garage. They had water sewer hooked up, could shower, do laundry in our house. They could even cook in their camper. It was a perfect setup really. Then they started to overstep their boundaries. Without notifying my mom, they brought over a modular round horse pen, think like those dog kennels they sell as individual panels, and brought over a pony who was notoriously a dong. He bit, kicked, and knocked over the fence panels more than once. The real kicker was that when someone called the township on my mom, they packed up to make the camper look abandoned and just happened to be visiting their children that day. TLDR. My mom took in her aunt and uncle who proceeded to illegally have a horse in a residential neighborhood and conveniently not be around when animal control the police came by to find them. One of my friends came over to hang out and play video games one day. We were thirsty and went downstairs to grab something to drink. I got a glass of water and, let's call him Joe. Joe got a glass of red Kool-Aid. We returned to my room and I set my water on a table, and Joe just sort of balances the Kool-Aid on the carpet. We recently got the house re-carpeted, so I was slightly wary of this choice of cup placement. Joe assures me that everything will be fine. Well, halfway into the first match of Halo Reach we get in, he rages because he was killed and knocks the glass over. I quickly get up and ask him to grab a paper towel. Joe starts to yell at me for being a bad friend for being uppity about him spilling, calls me a dong and then leaves. Joe doesn't get invited to people's houses anymore because he tends to always spill some kind of liquid on the floor. Pee me and all of my friends off because he acts offended when someone shoots over a stain on their carpet. Frick that guy. Seriously, carpet is freaking expensive and can be expensive to clean. Had a friend of a friend stay over for a few days. Guy was heavy into chewing tobacco and would sit on the couch spitting into a Dasani bottle. Pretty nasty, but okay for a day or two. After he left for weeks afterward, we found empty bottles hidden around our apartment full of chaw spit. Also, period fricking on couch. A white couch. The couch is now an art installation. We were having a party at our house and one of the guests got a little out of hand. He started breaking beer bottles on the floor and dancing in the shards of glass in his bare feet. The dance floor cleared and a circle formed around him, watching as he began rolling around on the floor cutting himself on the glass. One of my housemates started yelling at him to get out and he turned to her and said, "Stop censoring my art. That is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that someone would ever think that's appropriate at a party. I guess your housemate just doesn't get art." Someone made my father's 9/11 unit citation award disappear. We narrowed it down to a weekend when I had some friends over and I don't think anybody stole it. Most like it fell off the wall and broken rather than admitting it. Threw it out without reading it. But WHO the frick throws away something like that. Whoa, in my opinion that is the worst one on here. My friends, at the time, all teenage males, were hanging in my basement playing video games and basically chilling. My mom cut up some vegetables and laid out a nice platter, which is such a mom thing to do. Teenage males have no interest in such things as sliced vegetables for snacks, so they started throwing all these vegetables at each other instead. I can't stand this. People who make messes and expect other people to pick up after them are disgusting. I currently live with, help take care of, and pay rent to my grandmother. I work from 9 AM to 6 PM every single day without fail. I also work every third Saturday. One of my uncles likes to hang out at mine and my grandmother's house for no other reason than to be a mooch. He has his own house and apartment, yet every other day he will actually sleep at our house, eat the food my grandma cooks, and uses the internet I pay for. Usually I just put up with it since he does have some issues. Weed, prescription lithium. The one thing that drives me crazy is that he takes forever to move his car. This is not usually an issue since he usually parks in the street. Not this day. This day he parked directly behind my pickup. I got up about an hour before work and noticed his car in the driveway and asked him to move it. I showered, got dressed, had breakfast and got in my truck by 8:40 AM. It only takes me 10 minutes to get to work 5 miles away. After going in and asking him twice he did not move his car for 20 minutes. On top of that he would not give me the goddamn key so I could move it myself. I just about snapped on him that day. I don't care how fricked up in the head you are. Don't make a host late for work because your lazy butt won't move your goddamn car. I feel for you. Really, I'm raging inside just reading your comment. That is very inconsiderate. My birthday is in October, and for my 11th birthday I got a huge Lego Ferris wheel set. It had a motor and it would spin and it was super cool to 11-year-old me. Come Thanksgiving weekend, I find this is the perfect time to build it, seeing as I have a long weekend. I finish the base, and I finish the wheel itself. All I had to do now was install the motor and finish the supports, and I decide to go to bed. I wake up on Thanksgiving Day, and cannot finish because Mez's parents want me to help around the house. We have our guests come over and they bring their autistic 4-year-old son. Now me, being a smart child, picked up the wheel and base and raised it to a spot where only I or an adult could reach. We all mingle in the basement with other kids and the autistic child kept looking at the wheel and asking to play with it. I said no, and tried to give him other things to play with. We all eat and my family is cleaning up while the company goes back to mingling. I finish washing and go into the basement. I see the kid tearing apart the Ferris wheel. It is simply destroyed beyond repair. How did he get it? It was too high for him to reach. How does that happen? My older cousin, about 28, gave it to him without asking me, when I explicitly said it's up there so it doesn't break. She told me that it's just a toy and you shouldn't cry about because you can fix it. I never did fix it, and the pieces are still in my basement. TLDR. Autistic cousin and adult cousin destroy my Lego hopes and dreams. I'm not mad at my autistic cousin one bit. He was extremely young and had no idea what he was doing. I was mad at the adult cousin who assumed that I was just being stingy with my toys. My old neighbor came knocking on the door because she was locked out and needed to use the restroom. I let her in, of course. 10 minutes later she says thank you and leaves. I go about my business until I walk by the guest bath. It smelled like the worst thing in the world. I lean in to turn the fan on when I see it. The lid was still up and there lay the most massive crap I've seen. I tried to flush and it started to overflow. Luckily the plunger was nearby and I was able to settle that terrible issue. When I was about 12 or so, my family invited our neighbors over to dinner. After dinner, my younger brother and their 2 children went upstairs to play. I stayed downstairs to finish cleaning up. An hour or so later, my brother comes downstairs and tells me I might want to go check my room. I get up there and the 2 kids are sitting in the middle of my room with my brand new violin completely broken in half. I've never raged so hard in my life. Their parents did nothing. I'm still P. Nobody ever uses any flipping coasters. When I was a kid, whenever I would have multiple friends over at once, they would go and play and interact with each other and leave me out. This happened with several different sets of friends. One set even locked me out of my own room, which inadvertently got me in a lot of trouble. Oh god, it's like my 10th birthday party all over again. My buddy, let's call him Jimbo, gets engaged. His in-laws decide to throw the couple a party at their house, and then his in-laws keep feeding him drinks. They make him a gift of a couple bottles of Patron, and then even his future mother-in-law starts calling him out for being a P and not going shot for shot with her. The party is mostly friends and family of Jimbo's fiance, but the few of us buddies with Jimbo know this is a bad idea. Jimbo is one of those drunks that blacks out easily, but is still about 80% functional. Sure enough, he soon becomes this lumbering machine of destruction, fully mobile but with no sense of judgment, logic or morality. After he knocks some decoration on the floor, breaking it, his fiancée starts crying. Jimbo knows something is wrong, but he can't figure out what it is. So he goes to the newly remodeled bathroom and starts yelling at himself in the mirror. Then he just punches a hole in the wall. It was pretty amazing. You could pick out the outline of his knuckles in the sheetrock. So the guys decide we need to do something, but he's quite a bit stronger than any of us, and in his state any attempt to move him via physical force would end in a fight, and he is no longer conscious enough to be reasoned with in any way. Eventually I drag him out to the front lawn, so he can't break anything more in the house, or frighten more of the in-laws. He grabs a fistful of my button-up shirt and I sort of have him in a headlock, basically holding him in place and holding him up. And he keeps saying, "I don't want to have to hurt you, man. I don't want to hurt you," and I can tell he's tensing for a punch. But we sit like that for what seemed like 10 minutes. Eventually he decides to just go for it, and with his free hand takes a swing at me, which I dodge, but his other hand rips half of my shirt off my body. Luckily after this he just fell over and passed out on the lawn. At this point I stood there holding the pieces of my shirt together and watched all of his future in-laws file out past him awkwardly on their way home. Jimbo doesn't drink hard alcohol anymore. Stole my Pokemon cards. Kill him. This will seem mild compared to many of the stories here. It happened about 5 years ago. We had just purchased a new house. New as in never lived in before. This was a first for us. Bright, clean carpets, but no lawn yet. Just dirt and sand. Cue a pop-in visit from some people we had met at church. I hate the pop-in to begin with, so that was -1 right there. But as they are prepping to leave, their oldest kid, who was around 12, was the first to get his shoes on. He went outside and was running around in the mud that was our front yard at the time. Well, it took his parents and younger siblings too long to get ready, I guess. He came back in the front door, got himself a running start on the hardwood floor and leaped into the air into our living room. I come around the corner from the kitchen just in time to see this little sucker in midair with these muddy freaking shoes headed right for my bright clean carpet. I screamed "Ooh" just like in the freaking movies as he came down with his muddy right foot and slid across my carpet, leaving a huge crap streak of a mud stain on my brand new carpet. I've hated the whole family ever since. None of them ever realized why I was so pee off. TL. DR. Idiot kid mud streaks my brand new carpet. My wife and I put up a friend's father in our home just after we moved to Peoria, Illinois for new jobs. He used to live and work in the area, so he returned to the area shortly after we moved there to work as a machine operator for Caterpillar again after getting laid off from his previous job. Our verbal agreement was that it would be a temporary arrangement, as in we were just providing a place for him to stay while he looked for an apartment. I charged him $50 a month rent, basically just to cover utilities. He bought all his own food and had his own room and full bathroom all to himself, and was welcome to the use of all our kitchen appliances. He worked nights and slept during the day, so we basically agreed to keep it quiet during the day so he could sleep. After a month had passed, I started asking how the apartment search was going, and he kept saying he couldn't find anything nice and affordable. After talking to his daughter, she basically told us he had looked at a couple of places the first week, and then after that, nothing. After 2 months, I started looking for apartment guides and highlighting candidates that met his criteria, and offered to help him check the places out. When it was almost 3 months of him staying with us, My wife and I realized we had to get him out or it was going to become really difficult to uproot him, so I started pestering him continually about finding an apartment. After a couple of days of this, he curtly informed us that it was obvious we didn't want him there anymore, and he would be staying somewhere else. I helped him put his stuff in his car, gave him an awkward hug, and bade him farewell. Moral of the story, if somebody has a free ride, don't expect them to give it up easily. A guy that is friends with my roommate punched a hole in my wall, still unfixed, 2 months later, and when he is over now, he threatens to kick my cats. I hate douchebags. Open bracket. When I was little, there was a girl from around the corner who used to come to play, not because I was friends with her, but because both our mothers were stay-at-home parents. Wouldn't call them friends either really, but it was the middle of the country, and you make do with the company you can get. I was about 5 I think. The kid was a year younger than me and a malicious brat. She would go out of her way to cause trouble, hurt things and upset people. I remember when a local cat caught a crow in our neighbor's garden. My 4-year-old self cried hysterically. She giggled. Anyway, my mother had just finished redecorating the kitchen. I'd helped in the way young children do. She let me pick the wallpaper, obviously out of a selection she'd chosen. We often used to play in the kitchen, since there was only one living room and adults want adult times etc. etc. Being young, I was so proud and happy about the new decoration, and showed her. She looked at me and clawed at the wallpaper, literally ripping it from the walls. It looked like an oversized cat had been at it. There was a piece the width of a roll of wallpaper and about 2 feet high gone. I started crying and yelling at her. She wouldn't stop. Our mothers came through and the kid tried to blame me, despite having pieces of the paper still in her hands. It was clear who had done what. Her mother couldn't have been more indifferent, basically shrugged and walked off. Never offered to buy a new roll of wallpaper, never offered to help my mother fix it, not even an apology. She just didn't see a problem with that. Anything that had happened was her responsibility. Anytime people say to me, they're young, they don't know what they're doing, I think back to that child. She knew bloody well what she was doing. She deliberately acted to cause upset and hurt. She just wanted to destroy anything. She enjoyed it. It may well have been a product of her upbringing, but it doesn't deplete her consciousness of the effects of her actions. TLDR. Destructive child, inconsiderate mother. Dumped ash from a bowl on my carpet, dosed my pets with LSD, broke my sofa, broke my stereo, then just general vomiting at parties. The LSD still really pisses me off, though. I was 15, maybe younger, and my stepdad, prick, had his drinking buddy over. Well, this drinking buddy had a younger son, about 10-11 at the time. He was a pretty cool little kid, so I was playing Xbox or something and he was there watching. Drunks out in the living room watching football. So it gets after dinner time, and little guy says he has to use the bathroom. Sure, right down the hall. First door on the right. I'm out watching the last bit of the game when he comes out, and goes up to his dad and says, "Dad, we have to leave. I don't feel good." His dad says no, so little guy says again, "No, Dad, I really don't feel good. Can we please leave?" So they leave, just before the game ends cause God knows why. Well, I decided to take a pee, opened the door, crap everywhere, literally poop everywhere, like explosive diarrhea before he sat down on the pot, everywhere. He tried to clean it up, but the toilet was now clogged with toilet paper as well. Poop was on top of the toilet, behind, hit the shower curtain, so I walked out and told my stepdad. He walked in and was blown away. I pee in his bathroom and let him deal with it. At least he tried to clean it up. I vomited in a grandfather clock and then tried to hide it by putting a painting inside there on top of the vomit. Though in my defense the owner of the house was in on my drink getting spiked, so I'd say we're even. Elaborate please. Jumped out of my 3rd story window. We hosted her graduation party because she had a small butt apartment. We had a house. She acted like a spoiled brat all day and got wasted on tequila and jumped out of our 3rd story window for no reason. Light up a goddamn cigarette in my living room. He was a friend of a friend and I had never met him before. Somehow he thought, hey, this is clean smelling living room, so let me light up my shit stick. Douche. What in butthole? Even as a smoker, this is something I would never do. Even if expressly given permission, I still go outside. I hate sitting in a very smoky room. My uncle pee on the curtains. He wasn't even that drunk. He was marking his territory. Open my bedroom door, without knocking, while my husband and I were asleep, to ask me for a cigarette, at 6 in the morning. I hope she never visits me again. Edit. We were knocking boots the night before, so yes, I was a little knacky. I hate when my 12-year-old does it too. I had a friend open up an urn containing both of my grandparents' ashes and pour a little into his hand. My brother and I stared in disbelief, and when he noticed us staring, he just brushed it all onto the floor and asked what was wrong. We explained. He apologized a lot, and all was forgiven. I just don't know what was running through his head. Girlfriend of a friend cut her wrist with a steak knife in my bathroom because she felt her boyfriend wasn't giving her enough attention. When I was a teenager, I had a group of friends round overnight. One of them, I don't know who, decided to jump on my computer at some point in the wee small hours and look up P. This was back in the days of dial-up, where some sites would force your computer to dial a premium rate number to stay connected. That's pretty much what happened, and my family received a bill for about £50.60 of premium rate P charges. Drunk kid had to puke. Thought it was a good idea to open cabinet under the bathroom sink, pull out a drawer, and puke into my makeup toothbrush stuff. Opening a drawer full of putrid puke first thing in the morning, would not recommend. Dude, if someone puked into my makeup basket, they'd be paying me back at least $100. No way would I let someone get away with that. My mom ran a daycare for several years when I was growing up. We had all kinds of problems with kids breaking and stealing our things. I remember one girl attempted to steal my sister's Game Boy and one of her games. The next day she brings the Game Boy and game back, claiming her mom had bought it for her the previous day. My parents were rightfully suspicious of this, especially considering her mom didn't make much money and was late on daycare payment. Turns out the girl stole the Game Boy from us. Shock. A friend of my roommate who I never particularly liked came over to drink. This guy proceeds to be loud and obnoxious, spilling drinks, hitting on my roommate's girlfriend, drinking my roommate's booze, and eating my roommate's food. Eventually, he went into my roommate's bathroom and started throwing up. We found him the next morning with vomit all over the bathroom. How did he clean it up? Used all of the towels he could find in the bathroom, and then left these vomit-soaked towels in the shower. Well, not my house, but my sister paid for an expensive vacation to one of those family resort hotels with an indoor water park. She covered the costs for our cousin and her 2 children. Cousin dumped her kids on me to watch all weekend, while I was entertaining her 5-year-old down in the water park. She was up in the hotel room digging through my belongings and stealing my prescription Oxycodone. I have a chronic pain disease and have recently had major surgery. I need those pills to get out of bed in the morning. Can't replace the prescription early because it's illegal. Also, I have to pay for my scripts out of pocket. I live in a house as the eldest of 6 children, 3 from my father and 3 from his new wife. The only girl is my 14-year-old sister. Our next door neighbors, 10 and 13-year-old boys, are friends with my stepbrothers. Problem beings, the neighbors, now N10 and N13, are, well, loud and assertive. N13 likes to simply show up and jump on the Xbox, loudly. N13 also loves to play on the family iPad, or rather he loved to, because about a week ago, he was playing with it rather aggressively, which led to what my eldest stepbrother referred to as the loudest crack he's heard in his life. N13 swiftly left the house, taking N10 with him. As you probably worked out, N13 had cracked the screen of our 6-month-old iPad and ran away before he could get into trouble. My dad and stepmom decide to confront N13's mother. She is just as bad as her children. She will often walking into the house if the children have left the door open for a friendly chat and assume we look after her pets when she is away. She also seems to think my stepmom runs a care home here, just going out while her children are over without telling anyone. Anyway, they speak to her and she insists that it could never have been her son who broke it. They must be lying. We don't know what happened. There were no witnesses. No one saw N13 break it. Perhaps it was already damaged by one of your children. It can't have been just N13. He didn't mean it. We're not paying for it. But you know what the funny thing is? As I type this, my stepmother is kicking N13 and N10 out for being too loud and rowdy while playing a match of FIFA. And my brothers just celebrated. TLDR. Next door neighbor's son broke our iPad. Son's mother refuses to accept her son did it and refuses to pay anything. Son and his brother just got kicked out of my house as I type for being too loud. No one likes them. While I am on a rant, I feel like complaining about the fact that the aforementioned neighbors particularly enjoyed teasing the youngest brother, 8, about his Xbox playing abilities, which inevitably leads to the other brothers joining in and the little one running off crying. My sister and I just sigh and return to our computers. After bumping into a longtime friend who I hadn't seen in years since I had moved back to NJ from FL. I met him in FL, so it was very serendipitous to be reunited in my hometown in NJ. I invited him to my house to drink beer and have fun. He shows up some creepy, gangly, sunken in face type guy. I'm dubious at first but I don't want to offend him, so I invite them both in and with a few other good friends we all have a good time and pass out drunk. About 5 AM. I wake up to urinate just in time to see the creepy guy standing in the middle of my living room floor preparing to whip out his junk, and from his posture I assumed he would start pee on my living room floor. He had actually been sleeping on the floor, so I imagine he was only semi-conscious during this, but just as I suspected he whips his crap out right there. I'm so mad at what he's about to do that I grab him by the neck and try to force him out the front door. I'm 6 feet 4 inches and 250 at the time, and this guy is about 160, so he's like a ragdoll, but there happens to be a lawn chair directly in front of the door I'm trying to toss him out of, and he's also pee everywhere at this point. I finally heave him bodily over the lawn chair and he lands in a heap on the deck. I finally take that racehorse pee, and by the time I get out of the bathroom he has made his way back inside covered in pee and lays right down in his pee puddle on my living room carpet, with his face in the most concentrated puddle. After several attempts to wake him he is unresponsive and I am over the top angry, so give him a medium strength kick to the temple. He wakes up and I hand him some rags and carpet cleaner and stand over him while he cleans up every last bit. They were gone before I woke up the next day. It was a medium strength kick. Harder than playful, but by no means something that would cause any injuries. The fact that it woke him up and didn't put him into deeper sleep seems to be lost on certain redditors. I hate when guests bring someone over without warning. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.